harass is going to be a lot stronger. If for some reason not a lot of Zerglings were made, it means our Viking harass isn't going to quite be as good, but it means that our Hellion harass is going to be a lot stronger. The Hellions and the Vikings attack two completely different aspects of the Zerg setup. One is just controlling space at the front, the other is making sure all your spread out overlords are protected with limited anti-air. Two entirely different things, so as a result, it becomes very nice doing those things in composition. And also Vikings are great at killing queens, so I encourage you to kill queens with them. What else would I say? And more Vikings being made. Now, I'm real curious to see the way that Jinro is going to play this off, because when I do this strategy, I actually get a much earlier barracks with a tech lab. I actually get 2 barracks with tech labs before I even get my command center, and I start rallying marauders to kill this off. And then once I kill this off and I expand, I have a nice little timing push with Vikings and marauders. Or if there's, for some reason, I can't do it immediately, then I definitely have to... I can back off, but it's not like a huge deal. I still have an expansion going, and I've still screwed my opponent up a lot. I'm going to open up this resource little menu tab here. Oh, God. And see, this is the one thing that a lot of Zerg players kind of... I don't even want to say forget, but it seems like they just don't really account for it. You see this queen get really bold when it sees Vikings, and the Vikings land, the queen's like, oh, shit, and just tries as hard as she can get out of there. Nope, see ya. So, of course, the good old land and smash. Oops, little miss. Oh, God, double miss step there. You really do end up having to halt the fun when the Hydralisks end up popping out. Jinro, you really have to halt the fun? Okay, he is backing up now. Hydralisks just kill Vikings so fast. Is he gonna get it? No, whoa, whew, barely getting it out. Oh, it looks like more Vikings being made. So this is a little bit of an awkward situation. Looks like Armory's finished. Ooh, a Mech transition. Very different from the Marine Marauder transition that I know and love. Of course, because there is Ticky Tacky underneath here, he cannot get there. The Laffy Taffy is blocking him. Looks like some of that goo from the Power Rangers movie spilled onto the Starcraft 2 game. Oh man, that's a hell of a reference. By the way, you guys should actually see that movie. It's pretty good. Pretty good Power Rangers movie, especially when they're fighting that giant Triceratops. But anyways, I'm really impressed with the way that Lalush managed to deal with this intense pressure by Jinro. Look at this, already ahead. His expansion's looking good. Where's the unit counting station? Ooh, yeah, already keeping a good drone count. We normally would like it a little bit higher, but considering how late Jinro is with his expansion, this will be extending itself way more as the game progresses. And I would absolutely say, if you are ever watching one of your replays, regularly pause and say, am I ahead or behind right now? And try to figure out why. Because that will definitely help give you insight as to when you're doing things right in games and when you're doing things wrong. Because, for instance, if at this point in the game, you're Lalush and you're saying, yeah, I'm always way ahead and I'm always feeling great, and 5 minutes later you say, oh yeah, this is when I always start to feel a little bit about my play, you know you do something wrong after this period, and then it becomes much easier to identify what's up. Jinro getting those tankers, and uh-oh, Hydralisks moving up. Oh god, they do so much damage to the Vikings. But of course, SCVs are just as sweet in this game as they were in the last incarnation of the Starcraft. So they end up dealing pretty good damage there. And one tank finally up. You know, I haven't really seen tank Viking too much. Kind of a cool mech play. Lalush, I really think would have been a little bit more benefited to killing off these destructible rocks with those Hydralisks. Infestation Pit coming. This is the anti-Viking. Oh my god, Plague just demolishes Vikings so bad. Just absolutely thrashes Vikings. It's incredible how good. You know, I was actually watching Slush play against Jinro, and Slush got 26 Vikings in one Plague. Or in one fungal growth. God, it was hilarious. Oh man. Neither players knew this, but I was just giggling, and laughing, and I was chortling and chuckling, and etc.ing. And this, I think, is a good choice to get the Infestation Pit before you get any upgrades. Really important to be able to manage this, because you really just need one good shot to push them back. Or actually, to completely decimate them. More expanding going on. Always kind of a hard choice where to expand. Kind of like taking out these destructible rocks a little bit earlier on. But I'm real curious how Jinro's going to be able to pull out of this. Looks like some Thors are going down, more factories going up. And I actually really like this play. Looks like Jinro is just not at all going for this expansion, is instead going for this one. When you have a really slow army, such as siege tanks that need to siege and unsiege and move around, they're so slow. If you just expand in a line that points at your opponent, that points where you want to be eventually, you will kind of naturally be freaking your opponent out as you try to just defend yourself. So right here, Jinro defending himself. When Jinro expands here, Jinro will put tanks here, yet more defending himself. And as a result, we'll be able to increasingly threaten this. And in the meantime, Vikings going around doing all their stuff. Be so careful when you land your Vikings. No, 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 oh God. Wait, they can lift off when they're fungal growth? Oh, they can lift off, but they just kind of have to hang out. Whoa, Jesus, that went a lot better than I had expected. Oh my goodness. Now, creep is something we need to talk about. Against an army as immobile as the Tanku and Thor army, you need to get creep everywhere. I think Mech is much, much, much more creep critical than, you know, Medic Marine or anything like that. Because you need to be able to rush here and attack this location, and then when the slow push gets to your base, you can pull all the way back. I mean, these destructible rocks are getting increasingly threatened. Siege tanks out. Are they getting upgrade? Yes, indeed. It's going to help out a bunch. Jinro doing a little poke around action. This little Viking's going to run around and just high-five each Xel'Naga watchtower. Yes, and then huff his puff his way back. Not too many more Vikings being produced. I'm always torn on whether to lift the Starport at any point, because after a while the Vikings kind of begin losing their utility, and then once the late game comes along and you have a lot of cash, then they kind of start making a nice little comeback. As of course you will know if you saw Sen against the little one. Those were just incredible games, but, you know, right now, I think Lalush is doing the smart thing. He's setting up to abuse mobility, right? What are all these things that do this mobility abuse thing I'm talking about? Infestation Pit, hitting the fungal growth, making things immobile, shutting down harass, getting speed for overlords and ventral sacks. He can drop in a lot of locations, abuse that immobility. Right here, he can creep everything around. He's further abusing mobility. He is expanding away from his opponent. And honestly, the next best place to expand is probably going to be all the way up here for the Zerg. Because again, it spreads Zerg out all over the map, making it very, very difficult to deal with. Look at this planetary fortress there. This planetary fortress has as much defense as it is offense. I mean, this is going to obviously allow this expansion to stay alive, but it's also going to set up for a nice push. But look at what Zerg's doing. Love this, moving forward to here. Good placement on these sensor towers. Mech actually feels way immobile in this game, just because Hellions feel a little bit less maneuverable than the Vulture. So I like these sensor towers to help make up for it. You can just plan a little bit better. Look at this Zerg. Is he going to take this out? God, that's so smart. I love this. Just creating as many holes into his opponent's base as he can. Then he gets even more control over these Xel'Naga watchtowers. Again, limiting his opponent's mobility. Expansion's going down, any Queenies here? No, not quite yet. And I always love this. Cutting gas to favor getting just more hatcheries. I don't think you'll necessarily need a ton of gas early. But of course, if you are in the Artosis vein of Zerg styling, you're going to love your Broodlords in the late game. It's going to be really hard to deal with if you're up against Vikings, but if you get enough Corruptors and Broodlords, you will shut any anti-air down pretty hard. Jinro's still expanding, playing pretty passively. Does he have the Blue Flame upgrade? Yes, he does. And these Vikings are just so useful. I mean, one thing to note, even though these guys have just been kind of floating around, kind of like, not really doing too much, look at the kill count. 6, 2, 4, 0. It's 12 kills, almost all of which are Overlords and drones. And, whoops, looks like there was one sacrificial Viking there. But Lalush continuing to expand, not even really maxed yet, and that always excites me when I see a player doing a lot of expanding in this game, because it's so easy to kind of go into a little bit of macro pilot. Kind of like autopilot with Zerg, where you just go, well, if I put a queen at every single hatchery, then I can macro really well. Yeah, but if you just expand a whole bunch more, then you don't even need to get those queens quite so early. So good job getting all those queens. We do see the Vikings continuing to be made. Jinro finally getting ready to push, and this was my experience when I played against him as well. Just very, very passive, and this incredibly, extraordinarily difficult to deal with mix. And here are the +2 weapons coming. And notice that Jinro, this command center, the first time he is setting up to expand here, is when he has this giant-ass, really scary army about to enter his opponent's base. Only then, not a second earlier. Very, very, very fast. Few tanks set up here, not a ton, but they're just positioned really well. Notice that, like, all of them can hit right there, just barely. And now the tank's spreading out. Obviously, controlling your opponent's point right here is very, very, very good. Hives out. What does it look like Lalush is going to do? Is there an Ultra Cavern going down here? Spawning pool, Hydralisk Den. Whoa, that's a little bit unusual. Ultralisks are great against Mech, especially, again, when there's creep. Oh god, Lalush doesn't have anything to defend this. Oh no. Oh god, is Lalush going for the counterattack? There are 3 tanks here. Might work. I see a 4th one there as well. Jesus, is there anything that's going to stand up here? Is there anything being made with a Hive Tech? No Hive Tech? Ooh, that's weird. Is there anything? I'm like trying to really figure out Lalush's follow-up plan. Jinro just shooting away, Lalush falling behind in the food, roasting all the drones.